This is the Craig L. Hayes Show.
And welcome back to the Craig L. Hayes Show. I am Craig L. Hayes. I'm here with my father, John Hayes, on episode 3 of a look back on showbiz and entertainment in Las Vegas. And we between these episodes, we were just having a drink of water, having a little talk, and he started remembering some things about the Rat Pack and some of the shows he used to do back at the Sands Hotel, and all the antics the guys used to get up to, and the stuff they would do between shows and after the shows. And so I'm going to let you go ahead and tell some of those stories and about the Rat Pack.
Showbiz. They were showbiz. When they moved around through the casino trying to get to their room or something, that was how they did it. Showbiz. Working the Sands Hotel is where the Rat Pack worked, seems to me. And I can't remember what we were working at the Rat Pack.
Well, the Rat Pack was Frank Sinatra,
Yeah.
Dean Martin, Sammy Davis Jr.,
Correct.
Joey Bishop, and Peter Lawford. There was
That's it.
5 of them.
That's right.
But you never knew who was going to show up that night. Not all 5 of them had to be there every night. It could be 2 of them or 3 of them or whatever the combination was. Or sometimes all 5 would show up and all kinds of crazy crap would happen.
They were the show.
Yeah.
Wherever they went, it was unbelievable. And yeah, I've been working the Flamingo. I think it was the Flamingo. Yeah. And somehow the electric didn't work for the showroom. And I had to leave my spotlight in the booth, take the handheld spotlight with me, and go downstairs into the room, get down at the foot of the showroom stage, and shine it on the star. Wherever the star was, that's what I had to do. That's where I was going. Big light, and I'd come down, turn it off for the end of a song of the singer, and that's what usually happened. Is it seems to me was singers had to stay pretty much where they were and belt it out. And I had to do what I could to make it work for especially the women singers, because they weren't used to being obstructed. That's a polite word, obstructed. Anyway, make it work to make the entertainer feel rewarded by the audience, and the audience always read it that they better get into it when it ended. And they did. It was really nice to watch, because they could have just sat there with arms folded when the singer was done, and nobody would care. But not what I saw. The audience rewarded the singer, male or female, when we lost the electrical, and I had to use a handheld spotlight running on the entertainer. It was a little unusual.
Yeah, but the show must go on. That's all there is to it. The show must go on.
I did my part.
Yeah,
I ran
the
the
show happen.
spotlight.
One of the things I did want to ask you about, and something, the other day I was listening through some of my music, my iTunes, and I came across this guy who was a singer, and you probably worked with him once or twice in the Casbar Lounge. His name was Louis Prima.
Oh, loved the guy. What an entertainer he was. He was a good entertainer. Louis Prima. And what was his wife's name?
Keely Smith.
Keely Smith and Frank Sinatra and those. you can't, you just go crazy trying to come up with all the names.
Yeah, and that's the hardest part about this stuff is remembering all these entertainers. I started writing down all the ones I've worked with.
Oh,
I'm at like 200 and something. I just could not believe how many I've worked with because I don't even think about it. I just do the job. But I always found it so fascinating that the Casbar Lounge was the lounge to go to after the final show was over for the
right.
night. And not just the people leaving the Congo at the Sahara, but all over town, they made a beeline to the Sahara Hotel to get in there, try to get in to see Louis Prima, who would start his shows around 2 o'clock in the morning
right.
and work till 6 in the morning.
Yeah.
That's when Vegas, just partied all day and all night. But that was the hottest show in town was when Louis Prima was there. I mean, Sinatra, you didn't know who was going to be there. They would all head down there if they were in town to go see Louis Prima.
Yeah, and my working night, the hours got changed. My first show was going to be midnight. And I said, oh, that means 5, and that means 6 o'clock. Many shows I worked midnight as the first show. Then I worked, the second show was 3 o'clock in the morning
Yep.
after I'd done the midnight show. And then after I did that one, I worked 6 a.m. if there was more than 2 people, or, got to do the show.
Yep. Keep those people happy in the
Frank
casino.
Sinatra, I mean, and Bugsy Siegel, not Bugsy Siegel. What's the other guy you were talking about?
Frank, or you're talking Don Rickles,
Don Rickles.
Louis Prima, and all those guys? Yeah.
When they showed up, you did the show.
Yep.
Now, maybe it was out of sync. Well, it was also out of the tub. Oh, excuse me. But you did what you had to do. You made them happy.
Yep.
That's the name of the game.
Our business is definitely a business where, number one, make the entertainer comfortable, make him so he can do his show, and make him happy that he's doing his show, because that translates into the audience. As they leave, if the audience is smiling, laughing, and they've had a good time, we've done our job.
And that's what you got used to seeing.
Yep.
And unfortunately, there'd be once in a while there'd be a drunk that would ruin a part. Okay. The security guards took care of that.
Yeah, they walked you out there and took you out and had a conversation, usually with you.
That's right.
One-way
conversation.
Yeah. Don't ever do that again or else.
Yeah.
No. So we've covered a little bit about the Congo. Now, there's people I've worked with several times. I've actually run the front of house audio engineer for, and one of my favorite guys to work with. Not that he was easy to work with, but one of my favorite to run audio was Jerry Lewis.
He made sure the audience knew what was going on.
Yeah. The man is a comic, timing, delivery, setup genius. As far as I'm concerned, he had the best timing of any comedian I've ever seen. And every time I worked his show was awesome to get to watch a master at his craft. Now his personality was a little hard to deal with because he was pretty harsh and hard to deal with.
Correct.
But that's the life you live. If you're going to be in the business and you want to be around these people, you're going to deal with the people that are hardcore and harsh to deal with. But they're masters at doing their craft. It's just the way it is.
Well, I think when you take a look around at who was running spotlights, that was the name of the game. Be the lighting man or sound man or rigger, but do the best that you can do.
Yep.
And that's what all the guys that I worked with, they were receptive to doing the best that they could do. That's put on the show.
That's what makes the show go off every night without a hitch, usually,
Yep.
in the way it's supposed to be. Congo Showroom. What other entertainers did you like at the Congo? I mean, you worked with a bunch there. I remember Charo was there. I mean, Jerry Lewis was there. One of my favorites, and I've never laughed harder than I did, was Waylon Flowers and Madam.
that's you pull a name like that out of the blue. There's nobody like them. They're one of a kind, and you did your best that you could do because you knew they were going to shock you with something, and you took it and you made it work.
Yeah.
They love to see. I know Freddie Bell liked to see me do something. You get used to who you're working. If in a few years you've worked so many people, and they remember, oh, John, remember you. You've been through it.
Oh, yeah.
Other guys, they're just glad to see people in the business that they're in. They can do the best they can do, and they know they're going to be helped. Make it work.
Yep. No, that's and that is the business that we are in, and like you say, people remember you. I've always found they remember you for two things. They don't want to ever see you again because you were so horrible at your job,
I've never seen one.
or you were so good and took good care of them that they love to see you.
That's right.
And that's the place I always wanted to be.
That's right.
And I was there when in the '84-5, I worked with the Imperials, from Little Anthony and the Imperials, a whole bunch.
So I never worked there. I was gone.
They were awesome. Just a great show. And then about 10 years ago or so, Little Anthony and the Imperials came into our showroom at the Westgate, and the guys that were in the Imperials, they're sitting there staring at me,
Yeah. Yeah.
and they're staring at me,
How did you know what to do?
and they're looking at me, and they're going, "We know this guy. We've worked with him somewhere." And I said, "Mint '84," and they went, "That was you."
That's right.
Oh my! It was like 30 years later, But they remember, That's the cool part, when they remember you. I saw Freddie Bell at a show one time that I just went with some friends to see something over at the Harrah's Hotel, and they had a show there, and I was sitting in the audience, and of course they did the call from the audience, call from the stage of the people in the audience, and the entertainer said, "Hey, Freddie Bell's here." And so I saw him. I walked over to him, and I saw him, and I said, "Hey, faccio brute."
Yeah. Right.
And he's like, "Craig, I can't believe it's you." But I hadn't seen him in 20 years.
Yeah.
That's the love of the business. When they remember you, and you can sit there and laugh about some stuff. And back then I was calling it the old days. That was not even my old days. I've got tacked 20 more years on the top of that. So
And they make it known that they're glad to see you.
yeah, it's nice to have that association with these entertainers.
Right.
Anyway, let's move over to, let's see, another hotel you worked at. You did Caesars. You did a lot at Caesars. I remember you were there all the time.
Yeah.
I think I worked with you on a show, Beach Boys. You and I worked Beach Boys together.
Oh, yeah.
I
loved that show.
That was a fun show, man. They were
Beach
great.
Boys. And their music was today's music.
Yeah.
And that's what got the audiences up and going.
And this was like 80, I'm going to say 87, 88, somewhere in there. I worked this show with you. And the people were still just going crazy when they were playing the songs they were playing from the late 50s, 60s, or at least whatever it was in that time period. but the loving it. That's the amazing thing, that how long the shows have duration, the music.
And they were glad to see you because they related everything being okay. Everything that was supposed to happen in sound and lighting was going to be the best that Craig Hayes could put.
Well, yeah, okay. I'll take the compliments. I just did my job. I did the best job I could. So,
That's your job.
and where else did you go? Oh, here's another place. Riviera. Riviera
Oh,
Hotel.
yeah.
You were there for several years,
Yeah.
and at that point you were in management. You were technical director
Yeah.
and in charge of the showroom and convention area and stuff like that. But still had great shows in there.
That's right.
Amazing shows. That's it. And in the convention area, it was a brand new convention area. You helped design and make sure it was under the control of Local 720. So you've had good history of securing more employment for Local 720. And that's just being someone that's a good union member, as far as I'm concerned.
It was the Riviera had excellent people show up as people in the audience. There were some hotels that maybe people were picky. That's being polite. You liked the people that came into the Riviera and spent their money, but the people that went to another place, maybe you didn't like the clientele.
Yeah.
That's personal. So it's
Well, I always saw the Riviera up until, when they started getting this building boom that went on in Vegas in the late 80s. I always saw the Riviera as being kind of like a higher end boutique casino hotel.
okay. Okay, yes. That's it.
They had they had some pretty good rollers in that place.
They had
mean,
money.
And at the time, that time period, was also the Hilton was around, and Caesars, and those had really big money running through them. Big, as they called them, whales. The whales just drop all kinds of money all over the place. But it all still comes down to one thing: it's the shows. People didn't come to Las Vegas just so they could go play a slot machine or have a buffet.
And how the clientele were received by the people that worked in the hotel. I saw some bad stuff, unfortunately. Most of the time, everything was fine. Some of the times, it got a little out of hand, and people had to be talked to. That's
Yeah, well,
part of the game.
yeah, and that's just part of people get too big for their britches sometimes, and it's you're going to get a little scolding from whoever's above you.
Letting it might be called letting the security guards take your picture.
Yeah.
Oh, they had to go backstage or back out of the public to have the picture taken. If they had their picture taken.
Yeah, you were not on the property anymore.
Yep.
Yeah, if you became a big problem, you were not allowed to come back on the property.
Yep.
But-
I saw that done a few times. And I never saw the person again.
Amazing how that happens.
Name of the game.
So, did you ever work the Desert Inn?
Your Uncle Gordon made the trip from Reno down to Las Vegas to work putting together the Desert Inn.
Yeah.
And Gordon worked the Desert Inn for 25 years.
It was a beautiful room.
Oh,
It was just it was another one of those higher end, beautiful rooms. you know, we're talking back in the days when the showrooms were not usually more than 1,000 people. They were not big showrooms like they are today in Vegas.
Yeah,
You know, they were, 800 to 1,000
that's right.
seat showrooms. And when the International or Las Vegas Hilton and now the Westgate opened, you could put 2,000 people in there.
Yeah,
And that was outrageous that you could put 2,000 people in a showroom because nobody had ever done that before in Las Vegas.
that everything that was supposed to work worked.
And now they're 4,000 seat
Gee
showrooms.
whiz.
You know, and then they go into the arenas, and then they go, they go up to the 15 to 20,000 seat arenas, and then they go over to Allegiant Stadium or the Raiders Stadium, whatever you want to call it, and it's 65,000 seats.
Gee
So-
whiz. It's just, where's the fun? It's
Yeah, you're sitting in the middle of you're watching these little tiny, ants on a stage. But the crazy thing about it is bands like Rolling Stones were just there a few months back and they sold the place out. Aerosmith sells the place. These guys just sell these massive arenas out. It's unbelievable.
yeah.
Don't know how they do it, but I prefer the little bit more intimate showrooms.
Well,
There's only a few left in Las Vegas.
Stan Irwin was the man who was the entertainment director at the Sahara Hotel. And the Beach Boys, were that the ones that were hard to get a hold of? I'm trying, yeah, you have to save this.
You're talking the Beatles?
The Beatles,
Yeah.
okay. That's the word. The Beatles, I went on the road and I was back in the East Coast. My brother Gordon, your dad, your uncle, he went in and ran the sound for the Beatles.
Yeah, when they're at the convention center Rotunda.
And then he says, all I did was push up all the controls and sit back because I couldn't control it. He says, they made their show and that was it. And that's what Gordon tells me, that was the high point of his life, was working the Beatles.
Yep.
And the Beatles, Stan Irwin, if you were lucky enough to be an owner and you had the right amount of money, you had Stan Irwin working for you as the entertainment director that knew how everything had to happen. And Stan Irwin put a few of the rules to work in the other hotels. Stan Irwin was the Sahara all the time, but he helped the people. And the Beatles were, I've listened to a recording, and it's so loud. It's so
And it's just girls screaming.
displaced,
Yeah, it's girls screaming nonstop and stuff. You can't even hear the Beatles. Did you know that's why the Beatles basically stopped touring?
because
They couldn't hear
no
themselves
show
on stage.
business.
Yeah, they couldn't hear themselves what they were doing on stage
right.
because of the screaming. And the only way that Ringo Starr could keep the beat with what Paul McCartney and them were doing, he would watch Paul McCartney's leg bounce
right.
and just keep
time.
with it because he couldn't hear Paul. Paul couldn't hear him. Nobody could hear each other. They were just going out doing it, and because all they could hear was screaming. When you're a musician, you don't want that. You want the applause. You want the cheers.
It was so
But
loud.
if you can't hear yourself play and enjoy the music that you're playing, what's the point other than you're just making a paycheck?
You couldn't make it work.
Yeah, it's not your show. It's just like, this is kind of crazy. We're just,
But
so.
they fulfilled the place more than completely. There's-
That was about 6,000 seats in the Rotunda back then.
long time ago.
Long time ago. That's been gone a long time. Yeah.
He said, your uncle just said that he sat back when they raised the curtains and the Beatles were there. He pushed up all the controls and just sat back.
Yep. Not much you could do.
There was no there was the Beatles did what they wanted, and it was over.
Yep.
Yeah, it was. I tell you, all my years in show business, Las Vegas was so much fun. It was good money, and you were glad to have the job, and you did the job, and when you told an entertainer you could or couldn't do something, the entertainment knew. Whoever was the entertainer knew you were talking the best that could be heard.
Yep.
That's it.
That's all there is to it.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, well, that brings us to the end of episode 3 with John Hayes. And we'll be back in just a minute with our conclusion, which is episode 4.
This is the Craig L.
Number
Hayes
four,
Show.
Number 4.